Nestled at the foot of a majestic mountain range lay the picturesque village of Hollow Creek, a place where time seemed to stand still. It was a quaint and quiet place with cobblestone streets and charming cottages. The villagers were kind-hearted, but their faces always seemed etched with worry and unease. This was due to the presence of the Whispering Woods, an ancient and mysterious forest that bordered the village. Locals spoke of the woods in hushed tones, as if afraid the trees themselves might hear. They told tales of whispers that haunted the air, whispers that seemed to come from the very heart of the forest, and of travellers who ventured in but never returned, swallowed by the darkness. The trees in the woods stood tall and imposing, their ancient trunks thick and unyielding, their branches twisted and gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching out to grab unsuspecting prey, casting eerie shadows. The forest floor was perpetually shrouded in shadow, a dark carpet that seemed to absorb all light, even on the sunniest of days, making it a place of perpetual twilight. A strange mist clung to the ground, swirling around the roots and rocks, giving the impression that the woods themselves were alive and breathing, a living entity with secrets to keep. The villagers avoided the woods as much as possible, their fear palpable. Those who dared to enter for firewood or hunting never strayed far from the edge, always wary of the unseen eyes watching them. They always returned with tales of unease and dread, their hearts heavy with the weight of the forest's oppressive presence, their faces pale and their eyes filled with a haunting fear that lingered long after they had left the woods behind. One chilly evening, a stranger rode into Hollow Creek. His name was Victor, a seasoned traveller who scoffed at tales of superstition and fear. Victor had heard the villagers' whispers about the woods. He dismissed them as mere folklore, the ramblings of a simple community. Whispering Woods? He chuckled, sipping his ale by the fireplace at the village inn. Sounds like a load of hogwash to me. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Old Martha, the innkeeper, leaned in close. You shouldn't scoff, young man, she warned, her voice raspy with age. The woods are a place of darkness. Many have entered, but few have returned. Victor just laughed, his skepticism unwavering. I've travelled far and wide, good woman. Seen things that would make your hair stand on end. A few whispering trees don't scare me. He decided then and there he would explore these woods come morning. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sun casting long shadows through the village. True to his word, Victor set off towards the woods, ignoring the villagers' pleas for him to reconsider. He carried with him only a knapsack with some provisions and a lantern, his skepticism his only shield. As soon as he entered the woods, the atmosphere changed. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. A strange silence descended, broken only by the crunching of leaves beneath his boots. The sunlight that bathed the village was gone, blocked by the dense canopy of leaves overhead. Victor pressed on, his initial confidence beginning to waver. He noticed the strange shapes of the trees, their twisted branches appearing more menacing in the dim light. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the sound of his own breathing and the pounding of his heart in his chest. As Victor ventured deeper into the woods, he began to hear the whispers. They were faint at first, like the rustling of leaves, but gradually grew louder, swirling around him like a vortex of disembodied voices. They seemed to emanate from the trees themselves, their voices a chorus of despair and anguish. The whispers spoke of forgotten memories, of pain and loss, of dark secrets buried deep within the woods. Victor tried to ignore them, but the voices seemed to seep into his mind, planting seeds of doubt and fear. He shook his head, trying to clear the whispers from his thoughts. It's just the wind, he muttered, his voice trembling slightly. But the whispers persisted, growing louder with every step he took. They seemed to be drawing him deeper into the woods, away from the safety of the village and into the heart of the unknown. The whispers were not the only thing that unnerved Victor. As he walked, he began to notice the strange shapes that the gnarled branches of the trees took. They seemed to twist and contort, forming grotesque faces that stared at him with hollow eyes. He saw faces contorted in agony, their mouths frozen in silent screams. Others were filled with a chilling indifference, their empty eyes following his every move. Victor felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had a sudden urge to turn back, to flee from this place of whispers and shadows. But something kept him rooted to the spot. A strange compulsion, fueled by fear and morbid curiosity, urged him forward. He had to see what lay at the heart of this forest, what secrets it held within its depths. The sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees. The forest seemed to come alive with the fading light, every rustle and creak amplified in the growing darkness. Victor realized with a jolt that he was hopelessly lost. His heart raced as he looked around, trying to find any sign of the path he had taken. The whispers had led him astray, deeper and deeper into the heart of the woods. Each step he took seemed to echo with unseen voices, guiding him further from safety. Panic welled up inside him. He could feel the weight of the forest pressing in, the trees closing ranks around him. He tried to retrace his steps, but every turn seemed to lead him further into the labyrinthine forest. The paths twisted and turned, each one looking more unfamiliar than the last. The whispers grew louder, mocking his fear. They seemed to come from all around, a chorus of unseen tormentors. The faces in the trees seemed to leer at him, their expressions a mixture of amusement and malice. He could almost hear their silent laughter. Victor stumbled through the undergrowth, his heart pounding in his chest. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound a potential threat. He was alone, lost in a place of whispers and shadows, with night fast approaching. The darkness seemed to grow thicker, more oppressive. He fumbled for his lantern, his fingers trembling as he struck a match. The small flame was a fragile beacon in the overwhelming darkness. The flame flickered to life, casting a dim, dancing light that did little to penetrate the oppressive darkness. Shadows danced on the trees, creating eerie shapes. He held the lantern aloft, desperately searching for a landmark, a path, anything familiar. But there was nothing. Only the endless forest, stretching out in every direction. Only the endless rows of trees, their branches reaching out to him like grasping claws. The forest seemed to close in, a living entity intent on keeping him trapped. Suddenly the whispers ceased. An unnatural silence descended upon the woods, heavier and more oppressive than before. Victor froze, his breath catching in his throat. He felt a presence nearby, something ancient and evil watching him from the shadows. Then he saw it. A figure emerged from behind a towering oak, its form shifting and swirling in the mist. It was tall and skeletal, with long, sharp claws and eyes that glowed with an eerie light. The creature moved with an unnatural grace, gliding towards him through the trees. Victor stumbled back, his blood turning to ice. He had never felt such terror, such pure, primal fear. The creature opened its mouth and a voice like dry leaves rasped through the silence. "You are not welcome here," it hissed, its voice filled with ancient malice. "This forest has teeth and it hungers." Terror lent speed to Victor's limbs, propelling him forward with a desperate urgency. He turned and ran, his lantern bouncing wildly, casting grotesque shadows that danced around him, creating a nightmarish ballet of light and darkness. He could hear the creature behind him, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground, each thud reverberating through his bones. The whispers returned, louder than ever, urging him on, taunting him with his fear, their sinister tones wrapping around his mind like a vice. He ran until his lungs burned, and his legs screamed for mercy. But he didn't dare slow down, knowing that to stop was to surrender to the darkness. He could feel the creature's presence behind him, its icy breath on his neck, sending shivers down his spine. Then, with a sickening crack, his foot caught on a root and he tumbled to the ground, the impact jarring every bone in his body. His lantern flew from his grasp, its light extinguished, plunging him into absolute darkness, the oppressive blackness swallowing him whole. He lay there for a moment, his chest heaving, listening for the sounds of his pursuer, but there was nothing, only the silence of the forest. Only the sound of his own ragged breathing and the frantic beating of his heart echoing in the stillness. He had escaped, but he was still trapped within the heart of the whispering woods, the shadows and whispers his only companions. The next morning, a search party from the village ventured into the Whispering Woods, their hearts heavy with dread. They followed Victor's tracks, which led them deeper and deeper into the forest. They called out his name, their voices echoing through the silent trees. But there was no answer. Finally, they found it. Victor's lantern, lying on the forest floor, its flame long extinguished. The villagers exchanged grim glances. They knew then that Victor had met the same fate as so many before him, claimed by the Whispering Woods and whatever dark secrets it held. They returned to the village shaken and silent, carrying the lantern as a grim reminder of the forest's power. And so, the legend of the Whispering Woods continued, a tale whispered around campfires, a warning to those who dared to underestimate the darkness that lay hidden beneath the trees.